Hello guys, and welcome to a new Wargame Red Dragon video today by me, Vulcan. Today I'm going to be playing with the British Marine deck, and we are playing on Floods. It's been a very long time since I've done a replay commentary on Wargame Red Dragon, but I wanted to bring this one to you guys in particular because it shows off a strategy that I absolutely love to do. Now, this isn't necessarily a strategy I'd recommend, but it's a lot of fun. It's definitely a lot of fun, and I've done a video on it in the past, but I just wanted to see if it was still viable more recently, and I guess it isn't really, but you'll see how it goes as we play through the game. So let me just pop it to my point of view, and you'll see my units in blue. We got my Lynxes here, these Lynx AH7s, they have SAS in them. I've also got some SBS, which are the recon in the AH7s as well. And I believe I have some other troops in there as well. In Wargame, it doesn't tell you what's in them when you hover over them. It only tells you the transport. So yeah, we'll have to wait till they unload to know exactly what's in them. But I'm pretty sure in my stalwarts I have Royal Marines. We've got Scorpions, we've got a Stormer in there, we've got a Tracked Rapier FSAs. If I just zoom in, we can have a good look at these. And apologies, I can't hide the timer like I can in Star Division 2. If I do that, it removes the whole thing, and that's not very helpful because I need the minimap to be aware of where things are. But yeah, we got the Tracked Rapier FSA. Tracked Rapier FSA has radar, Tracked Rapier does not. So this is going to be countered by Seed, whilst this is not able to be targeted by Seed, so it can help shoot down those aircraft. Those Stormer HVMs also have some AA capability. Got a CP that's going into November. I've got a Stormer coming up at the back there with some extra troops, but basically what I'm going to be doing early on is I'm going to get some Lynxes across the big body of water on the right hand side, and if this wasn't a giveaway at the start with the Marine deck, this is exactly what I'm going for. So I'm going to be going for a big push across the water, and this isn't something that generally works too well, because if your opponent has recon and you start to get shot up in the water, you're kind of a sitting duck, especially to airstrikes. But regardless, we're going for it. Gazelle's here to provide some recon, allowing my Lynxes to get across and land, and I'm landing these on this side, mainly so that these SAS can set up, and the primary use of these SAS is to provide early AA. So what these SAS have is a infrared stinger, and so they're pretty good at taking down helicopters, and also aircraft as well if they get lucky. But basically that stops any counter push from my opponent if there's a bunch of helicopters over here, because if there was a bunch of helicopters here, like this Mi-24D for example, and that decided to come over and start harassing my ground forces as they try to cross, that would be really bad for me, because I can't quickly get AA into position to cover that off unless I have another aircraft that can cover us. So all of these units that you can see on this right hand side, these are all actually amphibious. The stalwarts can go in water. The Stormers can go in water, so the Stormer that's carrying some troops, and also the Storm HVM, which has the Starstreak missile system on it, that has 65% accuracy, really good against helicopters more specifically. Can also help take down aircraft, but the Tracked Rapier FSA is there for the aircraft mostly. It has a longer range than the normal Tracked Rapier against aircraft, but then again does have that Seed weakness. So I've also got a Chinook here, and this Chinook's really important as well for this strategy, because basically units will run out of fuel as they try and cross the water. Because units in Wargame Red Dragon, they use up fuel as they move, regardless of how fast they're going. So you'd expect, realistically, a faster unit would use up fuel quicker, but that is not the case in Wargame Red Dragon. If you are going slower, especially across like rough terrain, you'll use the same amount of fuel. And what that means is if you're traveling really slowly, then you use up all your fuel before you get to your destination. And all units in Wargame Red Dragon have autonomy, and autonomy determines like how far they can go before they run out of fuel. And the Tracked Rapiers in this case don't have very high autonomy, and so I have to basically refuel them before I send them across. Now in this case, I was busy microing my lynxes to try and shoot up some of the stuff on the ground. It is a bit of a waste of these aircraft, especially if I get them too close. But the trouble I was having with these lynxes was I couldn't get them to level out because of these hills. The lynxes were struggling to point their rockets down because they're at such a high altitude, avoiding the trees. And that is another issue that you have in Wargame with the helicopters, at least, especially rocket helicopters, because they don't want to tilt too far forwards, obviously, because then they start moving forwards and crash into the ground. And so automatically the game stops that from happening. Anyway, some lynxes with javelins now coming in. They are going to be providing some extra AA. I also wanted some more Lynx AH7s to cover my push, as my infantry is now moving across. We got the Stormers here as well. Nice little light tanks that do have amphibious capability. Realistically, I don't think you'd see these kinds of units moving across a body of water this large, but there we go. We are slowly but surely making progress across the water. And, well, would you look at that? My opponents decided to bring in helicopters. Now, it's very likely in this scenario, especially making an amphibious push on this side where I can't reinforce myself very quickly and neither can my opponent, that they're going to be using helicopters. So the Mi-25 S-24s, they're really good because they've got the 240mm rockets, which can basically one-shot enemy infantry squads. In this case, we do have Sathor over here with his escort. And this escort starts slamming these with its 30mm cannon. And they're having like an air-to-air fight. Unfortunately, the escort will be losing out there eventually, because that was a 2v1, but it did a good job. And they're not particularly expensive, as far as I remember. Only 65 points. The Mi-25 is 75 points, so basically traded 1 for 1 there. Anyway, the stalwarts reach land, and finally they're fast again. We're going to be able to get our Raw Marines into position. Over here, this was where I spotted the leader previously, so I'm heading in that direction, but he's got some of these infantry in the way. These are the Yugoslavian infantry. They do have that pretty decent machine gun, but against SAS at close range, no chance. The thing is with my SAS is they have like elite status. So you can see their training modifier on the information window. It says elite. And what that means is they don't get stressed as easily. So at close range, they actually do a lot of damage. And that MiG-25BM going down very, very fast there. That was a very nice kill for the SAS. We almost took down the Su-25T as well, but that didn't quite happen. So yeah, these VDV-90, they are shock trained, whereas the SAS are elite trained, but in this case, the Skrezets come along and absolutely make my life a misery. The SBS failed to get their rocket off and get demolished by those. The Mi-35s are now coming in with their guns and absolutely annihilating me as well, and very quickly 40 of my most trained men get killed. Very, very sad day for my SAS, that's for sure. But what we did manage to do was kill the command vehicle here, or the command like leader here. So that means they actually lost a +2 sector. So that's one thing that's really nice about pushing over the right hand side here is Lima, Kilo and Oscar in this case all cost 2 or are +2, and Hotel November and India are all +2. So if I actually manage to stop them capturing this and maybe capture it myself even, then I can create a +2 disparity or a +4 disparity against my enemy. Meanwhile, on the left-hand side, where the clashes usually take place on this map, it's all one. They're all one cost or +1, I guess, command sectors, and that makes the fighting last a little bit longer. But in this case, I've managed to get across, get a bit of a foothold, spread out some units, and now it's going to be really, really annoying for my opposing players, Expo and Mizhuyev, to push me out. And you can see even like Nutty's bringing over some aircraft to give him a hand. So the whole team on the enemy team is trying to push me out of here, and I'm just trying to be as annoying as possible, allowing my team on the left-hand side to continue to gain advantages. Because this isn't going to last forever. There will get to a point where your opponent starts to push you off and you basically have a bad time. But I am going to be getting my Lynx A7 up here with my own leader. So as I mentioned, Oscar is no longer captured by the enemy, and if I capture it by myself, then we're going to be going to a +4, even though things might be even on the other side of the map. Now the Mi-24 comes down here. My Stormers are in position, so we managed to take that out. The Starstreak system really doing its job there, and meanwhile I'm continuously bringing in reinforcements that basically have a fast move order to come here, like pretty much here, and then I'm giving them a move order to move across. So every time I'm bringing in reinforcements, they're driving all the way down to here, moving up here. And what that's allowing me to do is just constantly have reinforcements. I'm going to have to kind of predict what sort of units I need. But yeah, I didn't actually see this happen during the game. I wondered where these went. The Amphibious absolutely demolishing my Gurkhas here. They actually missed their AT weapon. And with those absolutely stunning the crap out of me, no chance. Oh boy. Bad times. Anyway, my Royal Marines die up here into the VDV. I'm still having problems with the Skrezettes. My HQ section did capture this, but they've now started to try and decap that, I think. Or maybe not. Maybe that was just me moving my HQ section. But regardless, got some more Lynxes here with the javelins to shoot down helicopters, because we have seen helicopters coming across. But since we're basically contesting this and making it annoying for them to come through the forest, I'm actually now making a move on Kilo while we sit at a +5. So far this has gone pretty well. I haven't traded very well. My units haven't done very well. I've actually lost quite a lot of units. But I am now putting pressure into Kilo, which is another +2 sector. And this is probably just a push that but the opposing team don't expect. Now, again, against maybe more experienced players, you might put like a recon helicopter here early on, you'd see the units start to come across, and you'd be able to do something about it. But that's also why I push initially with aircraft that have anti-air troops in them, because then you can prevent any quick counter to your push. Now you can see the track rapiers here, they're slowly moving across this body of water, but they're having a very hard time, and realistically that track rapier would not be firing on the water, but it did manage to shoot down that MiG. But they're on 85 fuel, you can see that quickly going down. They don't have very good autonomy at all. I mean, it's green, but 500 kilometers when you're moving at, what's it, 18 kilometers per hour, it like doesn't count kilometers in the same way, so you can see it's still using the same amount of fuel because the troops moving, and yeah, eventually they're going to end up stuck on the water. Regardless, Mi-24 is coming over, and there is an Mi-8 MTV here. My opponent's still trying to use helicopters to counteract my plays. They've also now brought in a command vehicle to try and countercap Oscar, but they're going to have to try and find my HQ section, which is just chilling back here. Should be in cover really, but it doesn't matter for the time being. These Stormers are going to have to go over here and cover that. I still have my 2 Scorpion light tanks hidden. Razvedka do unload. Unfortunately, these Gurkhas are getting annihilated because of the recon. I do have some more Gurkhas coming around the backside there. As you can see, Royal Marines are taking up sight in the trees. We're going to be using some Sea Harriers to take care of these helicopters, because I don't want that to happen again. Sea Harriers are absolutely awesome. They're going to start to bring in their own aircraft. I'm going to have to pull in and start engaging those. So MiG-27, take that down. Su-27M finishes us off. I'm going to be taking down another MiG there. And the Sea Harrier is going to be pulling away. I've got the evac ordered. I believe we lost 3 Sea Harriers, but I managed to shoot down 2 enemy aircraft and killed the helicopter, so it wasn't too bad. But kind of traded evenly, I guess, in the end. But with those helicopters done and gone, it actually allows me to easily move up the Royal Marines. So again, I can continue to put pressure on Kilo. And meanwhile, we're sitting in at +6 because Forest has done a very good job on the left here of pushing into Charlie. But you can see that Expo is also putting troops over here and trying to deal with stuff over here with Mizhuyev. So, yeah, it's not ideal for the enemy team. Me putting pressure on this right-hand side really did make things difficult for them. And the Royal Marines doing a nice job. The SAS obviously pushing in earlier on certainly helped out, but they didn't really survive, unfortunately. Now this SBS, I've got that up on this hill here because it actually has line of sight over this entire area, so I can see what is coming quite well. So that's really nice. It doesn't have AA, so it's not going to reveal its position. Gurkhas do get spotted in the open there. I tried to be cheeky and get over to Mike and cut off their reinforcements on this side. That would have been even worse for them. But my Royal Marines aren't successful in finding the enemy command. It was probably tucked all the way over here, maybe. But not enough time to find out, because that is the end of the game. And after 14 minutes and 51 seconds, we win. So there you have it. That is a game with the UK Marine deck. And it's probably one of my favorite decks in the game. It's probably also completely off meta. It's not a very good deck, and I probably wouldn't recommend trying to do this, because if you do go up against somebody who has a lot of recon and then you come up against a lot of aircraft, you're going to be in trouble. But we managed to stay just positive. You can see I wasn't really positive at all. But Forrest, great job on the left-hand side, really kind of pushed that victory fast. Commiserations to my opponents. But yeah, the SAS early on, they certainly take care of a few nice units for me. It's more just the shock factor of getting over there, and then all of the stuff that they're bringing in to basically counter us. Excuse me. All of the stuff that they bring over to counter us, like these Mi-24s and the Mi-25s, we're already prepared to counter that. So most of my kills are aircraft and helicopters, not really infantry or anything else, as you can see. You know, we barely killed the VDV. So I was kind of already prepared for what would counter the push, and therefore that allows me to get my troops across. Not forever, but long enough to do the damage and allow the rest of my team to also take advantage of that on the left-hand side. And that's pretty much it. That's the game that I wanted to show off. It's a short one, for sure. But it is supposed to be, because as soon as I get pushed off their side of the river, or their side of the estuary, or whatever it is, I'm going to have to move over to the left side to assist everyone else, and so will they. And that just becomes a very slow game that we will probably eventually lose, because I don't really have a deck that does well in that position, right? So it was almost a priority that we won sooner than later in this particular kind of game. And you've got to remember the Wargame games actually are much quicker than Steel Division games. So if you're used to the pace of Steel Division, Steel Division 2 that is, Wargame Red Dragon is generally a lot quicker, and games tend to have 40-minute time limits. So a 20-minute game is still, you know, half the time. Obviously, this was a 14-minute game. In this case, it's much quicker. But yeah, a fun game. Showed off an unorthodox strategy, one of my favorite strategies, and I thought it would really suit a video coming back and doing more content for Wargame Red Dragon, especially since I heard down the grapevine that Eugene might be working on some new Wargame content. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, that's it. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.